Hey, and welcome to another Bisque Imports vlog. My name is Ammie Williams, and today we're going to be talking about summer camp. I am a summer camp master. I taught camp, around the year camp for about 8 years. It is second nature to me. It courses through my veins. There was a decent amount of crying in supply closets, but you know what? That's okay. I cried, so you don't have to. Today in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to get started, logistics, inspiration, all that good stuff. So that way, hopefully by the end of the video, you know exactly what to do to get summer camp started in your studio, or maybe you already have it in your studio and you just need a reminder to get started. So let's talk about how to get started. You need to determine what your summer camp is going to look like in your studio. Is it going to be a week long? Is it going to be multiple sessions throughout the day? Is it going to be just a few days a week? You need to sit down and think about what your studio can handle. Is it going to start before the studio opens, like an hour before or so? Are you going to have the studio open at the same time? Can your staff support having the studio open while you're running camp at the same time, or whoever's running camp? That's something that you need to think about. You need to think about the capacity. How many kids can you handle, especially considering COVID protocol? Are they close together? Are they far apart? How many kids can you have in your studio for camp at one time? You need to think about the age range. This is really important. When I was teaching camps and designing camps and training and everything, I decided that 7 and up was going to be kind of the sweet spot for my camp age. I say up, I would say I didn't really get past like 13, 14, 15. The later in my summer camp career, I was getting kind of the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds because they had come to me when they were 7, 8, that kind of age. So, you might not get the older kids, but you do want to consider them when you are planning these classes, because a 14-year-old doesn't really want to sit beside a 4-year-old in camp. That just doesn't really make sense. It also doesn't make sense for you and the type of projects that you can do if you have someone under the age of 7. That being said, parents are sneaky, 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 and ultimately they want to get their kids somewhere while they can go to work during the summer, and they will flat out lie to you. So I would recommend saying that your age range is 7 and up, knowing that a parent is going to lie to you and you're going to get a few 6-year-olds. That's just how it's going to be. You need to consider if you are asking the parents to book for a full week, if they can pick and choose days, and if there's going to be a sibling discount. These are all questions that got asked of me often. I don't necessarily think you have to do sibling discounts, but that is a choice that you get to make. I recommend making signups available online through your website. It's really easy for parents to do, and it's also really easy for you to manage everything if it's just in one space on the back end of your website. Highly recommend payment up front, especially, parents are often booking summer camps, months in advance, and that is a lot of trust that you're putting into them if you're not asking for a deposit or full payment up front. But really recommend full payment up front, and also figuring out what your late, cancellation situation is, your no-show. Are you going to give that refund back? Are you going to let it roll over somewhere? Get those policies really firmly in place first before you put the summer camp out into the world, because you'll need to be able to fall back on that over the summer. When the parents are signing up, it's really helpful if they can go ahead and download a form where they can fill out, anything that they want you to know about their child in terms of allergies, emergency contacts, all that stuff. And also a section on the form that gives you permission to use their image in promotional materials, just a photo release section, just a really small thing, and make sure that you're paying attention to it. You don't want to get in trouble for using the child in promotional materials if they specifically said we are not okay with that. And I would say out of all my years of teaching summer camp, I probably only had 5 parents that were like, no, we don't want that to happen. So just make sure that you're getting that out there to save you legally, and that you're paying attention to it. Once you get the procedures and the logistics out of the way, now it's the fun part. We get to start looking for inspiration for projects for summer camp. So Bisque Imports makes it super, super easy for you. They have so many camp guides filled with projects of all type of mediums, step-by-step instructions, your supply list, everything you'd possibly need to make that project. So you can find that through resources on the website under ebooks, resources to ebooks, and you'll see so many different summer camp guides that are filled with such fun, like trendy, on-point projects. So make sure you're checking there first. And then of course, there's always Pinterest, there's always Google. You can search different type of keywords like kids canvas painting, kids, mixed media, things like that to get some inspiration. And then if you've exhausted kind of those resources and you still need to fill in some areas, I would go to your big box stores, Target, Walmart, places like that, and see what's trending in the kids section. They know what kids want. They're often telling kids what they want. So if you're paying attention to what they're pushing, you can kind of get an idea of what's popular. And lastly, if you need some more inspiration, ask a kid, hey, what are you guys up to? What are you liking these days? Jace, my 8-year-old nephew, for instance, loves Minecraft. So I can search, what even is Minecraft, and I can start to formulate projects based off of that game, because I know it's going to be popular because a trusted source told me. Camps should be, in a perfect world, camps should be completely planned and posted on your website by February. That's a lot of pressure. That's also a lot of trust and kind of forward thinking that you're having to make. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense to say in December or in January when you're doing the planning, we are definitely going to be doing this project in August, because you have supply chain issues to worry about. You have maybe products going out of stock or maybe being discontinued that you had never considered. So it's really not that important to put out absolutely finished projects and samples when you're marketing your summer camp. So for instance, I would say, 9 times out of 10, the kids that came to summer camp with me didn't know what we were doing that day. Their parents needed to put them somewhere during a specific week or for a specific time, and they weren't even saying, hey, do you want to make this project? It is not super important to say, this is what we're doing. Of course, on the back end, you need to have that planned, but I don't think it's important to have, out on your website February 1st, exactly what projects you're doing every single day. Instead, think about themes, think about, dates. Those are what's mostly important, because, I know I can go to, my nephew and say, hey, this week you need to go to summer camp, and it is, under the sea themed. Doesn't that sound exciting? And he can be like, yeah, of course. And that is perfectly okay, without having to come in and say, all right, well, you're probably not going to like Tuesday because it's canvas painting and you've never done that before, or this is a glass fusing day and that might sound scary, so maybe we shouldn't go that day. It's stuff like that that is going to get parents and kids and even you really bogged down, and that you really don't have to have that planned to launch camp. It's also much easier to create projects when you have a theme in mind. If you had to sit down and plan 100 projects, you'd feel really lost. So having themes, dedicated themes, one for each week, it is going to really help create those projects much easier. So nail down your themes first, and just beware of copyright. For instance, I would not say this is Harry Potter week. I would say this is Witches and Wizards week. Keep it really vague, because you never know who's paying attention, and you never know when you're going to get slapped with a cease and desist letter. So like I was saying, it's so much easier to create projects once you have a theme in place, because you're kind of working under, a guide basically. But if you take that one step further, it gets even easier. So if you say, every week this summer, we are going to do 5 different types of projects. It's a paint your own pottery, it's a canvas painting, it's mosaic, it's fused glass, it's mixed media, something like that. Give yourself medium parameters. So when I say medium, I mean like type of art. And then you can start creating from there. So I know that I'm not putting too many paint your own pottery projects on one week, or I'm not putting too many canvas paintings, because you want to give a nice mix so that kids aren't bored. And also, if you are getting a kid at the beginning of the summer and they're not really familiar with your studio, or they've never really done this before, you are teaching them so many different types of art, and they get used to that pattern that they'll want to come every week. They'll start to get favorites and they'll want to come every week. And once you satisfy a kid, you've got a customer for life. That parent's like, oh, I know exactly how to make this kid happy. Let's go to the pottery shop and create art together. So it's really important to kind of give not only yourself these kind of patterns so that you can create a really successful week or summer camp day. It's really important to give the kids those patterns so that they know what to expect and they can get excited, and they can start telling their parent, let's go there. I want to do that. I learned this at summer camp and it's so fun and I want to do it forever. Be thoughtful about where you're placing the projects within the week. If you've got a lot of stuff that needs to be fired, paint your own pottery, wet clay, fused glass, you want to put that earlier in the week. So hopefully you can have it finished and processed and ready to be picked up by the end of the week. So you can send as much stuff home, at the end of the week as possible. You will get so many projects that do not get picked up. That is the reality of summer camp. So if you can do everything you can to get that back in the child's hands before they leave at the end of the week, that is the best case scenario. So once you start creating the samples, you want to make sure that you are taking behind the scenes pictures and video. You will always need that content, even if you don't think you will. I mean, my phone, I probably at this point have 11,000 photos on my phone and videos, and it's so helpful when I need to push something. I just go into the archives and I'm like, oh, thank God I took that picture, because now I'm able to use it to convey this message. Now I'm able to say in a social media post, we're working on summer camp and we're so excited. Here's a little sneak peek at what we're doing. So make sure that you're doing behind the scenes content all throughout creating your samples. And once you get the samples finished, it's really important to put up a space in your studio that is dedicated to summer camp. So that way, when people are coming in for birthday parties or for paint nights, parents are coming in for a date night or something like that, there is a space that says summer camp. It maybe has your dates, it has your info nearby, maybe in a marketing material way, flyers or something like that, or just a posted poster or a sign that says all the information, sign up online, book now. And it has some examples of projects, because parents, they care mostly about the dates and putting their kids somewhere trusted and safe so that they can go to work without worrying about them. But if you have a project out that is going to catch their eye in some way, it is going to just further solidify the fact that they want to come to your summer camp and they want to put their kid in your summer camp. If you have the budget, making printed out marketing materials and stuffing bags with them is really, really important. That way they get home, they have this little flyer and they can put it on the fridge and, be reminded that summer camp is happening in your studio. So while you're working on, making your samples and getting an area in your studio that is going to be the dedicated summer camp area, be thinking about your email marketing campaigns and your social media campaigns. You don't have to have, copy written. You don't have to have anything like that done, but you do need to look at your calendar and say, okay, in February, I want to really push that we have camps available to be booked now. So you want to look at your calendar and start to plug in, email blasts that are going to go out. You want to start thinking about, all right, well, on maybe every Tuesday, that's going to be my summer camp spotlight day. And I'm going to post one picture of one project and really push that. Or I'm going to say this, I'm going to unveil the theme, every few days and kind of turn it into a big production. Because when you get excited about something like that, people start to plug in and they start to think, well, if they're excited about it, I should be excited about it too. So really start to think about your email and your social media campaigns, around January, February. It's just going to be so much easier for you to get that done in the midst of summer when you have already made that plan for yourself. So when you get closer to the first summer camp day, you want to start thinking about training. It is so, so important. If you're not going to be teaching your classes or your camps, it's so important to get that staff trained to the level that you are at. So for me, when I was working in the studio and teaching these camps, I couldn't be everywhere at once. I had to train people to teach the camps at the studios that I couldn't be at or on the days that I couldn't be at. And it was important for me that they do it just as well as I did. So we would come in, probably at least 6 weeks before the first date, and we'd really talk about every bit of summer camp. And not only with the people that were teaching camps, we were talking about this with all of staff, because you never know when a staff member has to, step in and cover for someone, but also all your staff members should know what's happening with summer camp so that they can sell during their shift. Even if it's a Wednesday night, they're able to say, yes, I know what's happening in summer camp and I can tell you what's happening. So it's really important that you have an all company meeting to talk about summer camp. So once you have the meeting with, the whole company to talk about exactly what summer camp is and what that looks like and make sure that they're trained to sell to people, you want to have another meeting with the employees that are teaching camps for you. So it is so important, unless they are a seasoned employee that has taught many camps before, that can pick things up really quickly. And I will be honest, those people are few and far between. It's so important that if that employee is teaching a camp, they have made the project. I cannot stress that enough. I have learned that on the fly. I've learned from experience. You want to make sure that that person knows what they're doing, because kids aren't stupid and they can pick up when your employee is nervous. They can pick up when your employee doesn't really know what they're doing, and they can, chances are they all have cell phones like with them. Even at the age of 7, they can quickly text that parent and say, I'm not having fun. The teacher doesn't know what they're talking about. And that can really just blow up in your face a little bit. So I highly, highly stress that you're sitting down and you're letting that employee make the project with you, or guided in some way so that they know exactly what's happening. Chances are your employees are not, well versed in teaching. I feel like not everybody off the street feels comfortable standing up in front of people and guiding them in some way. So I found it to be very, very helpful to talk to my staff about a structure of camp. So I was saying, let's sit down, let's talk about what an actual camp day looks like. It's you getting to the studio 30 minutes early. It's you checking who's coming, if forms have been filled out. If forms haven't been filled out, then, you need to print those and have those ready for the parent to fill out once they drop the kid off. You need to put the supplies out, and you need to have this environment, this studio ready and welcoming to a parent and a kid. A lot of children are really, really shy, and they have a hard time at the beginning of the week leaving their parents behind. So if you, have some music playing and the lights are on and you've got a smile on your face, even if it's, 7:45 in the morning and you're like, I'd rather be anywhere else than here. And you're standing there, and when they walk in and you say, hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. Are you ready to get creative today? Are you ready to get messy today? That kind of connection really early on in the camp day is going to put the parents at ease. It's going to put the kids at ease. And I also recommend, just not to get off on a tangent, after you've set the supplies up, I wouldn't necessarily put those supplies in front of that child immediately. I would put them on a table that you are in charge of, because there are going to be children that are late. And if you've got a kid sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for class to start, and they have, acrylic paint in front of them, or wet clay, or all of these expensive materials that we're using for the day, they're gonna start picking at it. So instead, I loved to put just a stack of computer paper and markers and pens and pencils, and I'd say, head over to the table, grab your seat, and just start drawing something, start doodling. We'll get started, as soon as everybody gets here. That gives the kids to do something to do, and that is not wasting your precious, expensive materials. So anyway, that's my tangent. So back to the structure of the day. Greet those parents, greet the kids, get everybody seated in their seat. And I always, it's very important for me not to let a late person derail my entire summer camp class. So by 10 minutes past, I would have gotten started. And so I think the most successful you could ever be hinges on how communicative you are up front. So I was standing there and I had the kids seated, paying attention to me, and I was saying, hi, I'm Miss Amy. You can call me Amy, you can call me Miss Amy, you can call me whatever you want, as long as you don't throw something at me to get my attention. I mean, now I've locked back into the script that I would say every day. And I would say, welcome to the studio. We're so excited about summer camp today. We're gonna be doing a project that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but first, let's talk about the rules. It was so important to start with those rules. Here's the bathroom. You can go at any time. Just let me know where you're going. The studio is going to open up in about an hour, and it's going to get really busy in here, and I need to know where you are. So let me know when you head to the bathroom. The paint stand is over here. We're going to do that together unless I give you permission. So please, if there are 7 people at the paint stand, wait your turn, because you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, at the kids that are weaseling their way up to get to the paint stand when there are already 10 people there. So after I would introduce myself and talk about the rules, I would say, let's go around the room and let's, everybody introduce themselves. This is really important, especially for the shy kids. And it's also really important not to rush them through this. So I was a big fan. I had staff under me that loved to play 2 truths and a lie. But that, oh my God, it took so long. And I was like, I don't have the patience for a kid to be like, So instead I would be like, tell me your name, tell me how old you are, and tell me your favorite food. Tell me, what your favorite TV show is. Tell me what food you hate. Something, I tried to make it exciting for them. So that way it's not just like, oh, my name's Amy, I'm 14 and and my favorite color is pink. that you want to get them kind of excited. So we'd go around. I'd also make sure that everyone listened to each other when they were talking, and I would stop what we were doing and say, hey, you're not listening to your friend. You want to make sure that you're listening to them because that's what you would want them to do for you. So we'd go around the table, introduce ourselves. I would go back around and say, okay, you're Jamie and you're Dan and you're, Kate and all that stuff. I would say their name back to them. That just helped me remember. And it also, it's a special connection that you get to make. And the kids like, oh, they remembered my name. Okay. And they get at ease and they feel more comfortable. So I highly recommend doing kind of an icebreaker like that. Even if it's just, hi, my name is, I'm this old and this is my favorite food. So after I got the rules and regulations out of the way, I would demo the project. And that is so important because if you just say, hi, we're doing this, they're going to be finished in 10 minutes. So I would say, we're working on this mug today. Isn't it amazing? I'm going to teach you exactly how to paint your own pottery mug. I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks so that way you can make the best mug you possibly can. I walk over to the paint stand. I explain that the colors change. I explain that you have to do 3 coats of every color. I also explained that my superpower is being able to tell if they have not done 3 coats. So, kids are, I'm not trying to make them sound bad. Kids are sneaky. And if they can, they think that if they finish their project really quickly, they're going to get to do another one. So they'll try to slip it past you to say, oh, I did 3 coats, but you get to say, no, you didn't. And they're like, oh, they're paying attention. You'll kind of train them to be the best summer camper possible if you kind of lay that boundary early. I talk about the brushes we're going to use, all that good stuff. I'm showing them first. I'm not letting them touch anything while they're listening to me because the second they start touching paintbrushes and things like that, they stop listening. So make sure that you have their undivided attention and you're talking about what the project is. Something that I feel very passionate about is letting the kids sketch what they're working on. This started as honestly like a way to pad the time, but I noticed it was a lot, the kids were just creating projects that were elevated because they were sitting down and they were being very intentional about what they were going to do. So if we're going to paint, our own mug on their piece of paper, again, there's pieces of paper and pencils and markers and stuff on the table. They're sketching out, okay, I'm going to put a dolphin on mine and I'm going to paint the background purple and then my dolphin's going to be green, and they're listing all the colors that they want to use so that way when they get up to the paint stand they're not wowed by 50 colors and they're saying, okay, I've got my blue, I've got my purple, I've got my black, all of that. Having them sketch out that plan, and then what I would also have them do is bring it to me and tell me what they're going to do. That I think gets them talking, gets them excited. So they work on the project, that's, a given. They start on the project, and just keep an eye on time. You do want to take a snack break. You want to time that when that is during like a drying period, so that way, it just makes sense time-wise. And you make sure that they're cleaning up after themselves. That was a really big deal for me. If you're dropping a Cheeto on the floor, girl, you got to pick that Cheeto up because I am not your mama and this is my studio. Then you want to finish the project. And it was also very important for me for the kids to help me clean up. Once they see what that entails, I feel like they are a lot more thoughtful with your time and materials and all that thing. So very important that they clean up after themselves with you. I loved to be cleaned up about 15 minutes before camp would end. Then we'd play games together. We could play drawing games. We could play games outside if it wasn't too hot, and if there was space. And so that way the parents can swoop in and they can grab that kid because oftentimes they're on their lunch break, the babysitters, the one that picking them up, basically they don't want to stand around and wait for the kid to finish the art. So make sure that you're finished, 10 to 15 minutes before camp is actually over. Process that pottery, process those projects as soon after camp as you can. That is just going to help your back room not get exploded with things. Highly recommend processing everything that you possibly can before you leave for the day. And you're done. So I was covering all of that with my staff, and I was saying, if you're uncomfortable, if you're unsure where to start, make your, step-by-step, time-by-time itinerary for the day so that you can stay on track, because there's nothing worse than a new employee, there being 20 minutes left in camp and they've barely made a dent in the project. So I'm a big fan of saying, new employee, please write down, your itinerary for the day. Let me check it out. And that way, if you have any questions about, what the day should look like, we can get that answered before camp actually starts. It's very important to take videos and pictures and all that good stuff while camp is happening. that way you have all the content, that way you can put it on social media later or in your email campaigns so parents can see kids having a lot of fun and then they want to send their kid to you. So that's so important. Please make sure that you're doing that. And that's really it. I feel like I've been just talking your head off for quite some time, but I feel very passionate about teaching. I feel passionate about kids and camps and all that kind of stuff. And I think that if you follow, what we talked about today with planning and logistics and structuring out your camp day, you can have a really successful camp that kids will come back to for years and years and years. Or if they're not coming back as a camper, they're coming back as an employee and teaching the camp for you. I had a couple kids do that, or a couple teens do that, and it was just really amazing to see them back and excited about the camp that you created and you taught them, and here they are ready to kind of do it themselves. So yeah, summer camp can be so stressful and overwhelming and crazy, but it's also worth the money 9 times out of 10. So I really hope that you got something super helpful out of this vlog today and that you create the best summer camp ever. Thank you guys for joining me today for all things summer camp. I hope you loved it. You can find me online at Ammie Y'all. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer for you. And you can find Bisque Imports at Bisque Imports on Facebook and Instagram. So we are so excited and can't wait to see your best summer camp ever.